2414 is a podcast about finding hope and common ground through casual conversation. Like the friends on the road in the New Testament, in Luke chapter 24, verse 14, we want to walk away with more understanding that leads to more conversation as the journey continues. Thanks for walking with us.
All right, that's that. Hey, welcome to 2414. My name's Dan, sitting diagonal today from Loretta and across, as always, from Shane. Welcome, Loretta.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Gosh, this is awesome.
Yes.
Shane, thank you for being here.
Oh, yeah, you
Thanks
too.
for pushing your buttons and sliding your dials and doing all your techno wizardry over there.
Something.
And especially thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, those of you watching on YouTube. If you are always a listener, you can check out our studio and see our I was going to say lovely faces or shiny head, or get a sense of what things look like if you go to YouTube. We're in our series, Theater in a Church, what it means for at least one expression of a local church to have theater, and that balance and tension and what each of those things mean. And today we're going to be talking with Loretta, who is the director, right? Is that your title?
Yeah, I'm actually the director of the current fall production.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to hear about what that means and some of your background, and here you are. But first, lows and highs as we get to know each other. Low is something that's down or hard or frustrating. High can be a joy, something you celebrate. It's even a chance, I think, to brag in a way that it's good to celebrate things, and sometimes it's hard to have an occasion to bring up something you're proud of. And so a low and a high. And then the question of the day is, what is the last live art performance or exhibition you went to? So not on your phone or watching a TV at home, but when's the last time you've patronized the arts in some sense live? So my low is, one of my lows, but the low I'll share here is kind of feeling stuck in routines. So in the mornings and the evenings, sometimes I have routines that are intentional and I'm proud of them and they're setting me up for what I want. And other times I look at my watch or the clock and realize, I wasted an hour or two. And not only that, but I wasted it in the same way I wasted it the day before, because I have habits that are just like programmed, and one thing just leads to the next. And it's great when that inertia and kind of autopilot is what I want it to be. But I feel like some of my morning, evening routines aren't setting me up for what I want them to.
Got it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So my high is I had a great run on Saturday morning. So it was a beautiful day here. We've had a few lingering, late summer.
What do they call that? Indian summer?
Okay.
Indian summer, when summer's over, fall has started, but the weather's still amazing.
Yeah. So the weather was out on Saturday, and my middle son and our track coach, Daryl, actually.
Yep.
So you know Daryl. We went for a run. Micah and Daryl and I went over at Panther Lake Trail, and two highlights. One is, I guess a few. One was the weather. Two was we saw this young man running. He's maybe in college, maybe even a professional athlete. Looked like maybe Kenyan. He was just the most beautiful runner I think I've ever seen, like in person. Just his form and grace and speed. He's got long sleeves and long pants and just effortless going by. So that was cool to see and just celebrate. That's cool. And then the final high related to that was Coach and Micah just dropped me immediately. So we're doing loops, and it's just like, I know the way back. You guys do your thing. And I was just huffing and puffing.
You were the slow kid.
And it was.
So they took off on you?
They abandoned me.
I love it.
And they just looked like they were having fun, and I couldn't hear them over my own breathing. So it was a good day. The question of the day, the last live arts performance or exhibition. For me, the last thing I saw live was at the Moore Theater up in Seattle. We watched Nate Bargatze, a stand-up comedian. I saw Nate Bargatze and Mike Birbiglia both last year.
So a year ago?
Within the last year, I'm sorry. Within the last several months, and I can't remember which one I saw first now or which one I saw last. So it was either Mike Birbiglia or Nate Bargatze at the Moore Theater, which is a cool theater up in Seattle.
Very cool historic theater.
I love the, like, we got there early, and the second time we got there even earlier because I just wanted to hang out on the upper deck and
look around, check out the architecture inside,
enjoy a drink, just lean on the rail and just take it all in. That lobby's just, it's incredible.
But are you saying you haven't been to a live anything for like 6 months? It's been a while.
It's been a few weeks at least, maybe a few months.
You saw Shore Lane in the amphitheater.
I did see Shore Lane, my favorite folk group, parody folk group perform. No, Shore Lane is the name of Shane and
Weird Al
Lauren's
impersonators.
No, I did see you guys. I didn't patronize you in the sense I didn't buy a sticker or a compact disc or anything. That's true. I paid for Berbiglia and Bergassi, and it's worth every dollar.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. So, all right, Shane, lows, highs, most recent live arts consumption.
All right, so low is just we got done with the meeting, and I hit the biggest wall I've hit in a while. So that's why I'm drinking coffee right now. It's just it's just all of my tiredness just hit. So I was like, oh. So I'm waking up still.
Sometimes work is work.
Yeah, sometimes work is work. So I'm waking up still, I guess. Hi. Lauren and I's car, but whatnot. It's still getting fixed, which it's been in the shop for 2 to 3 months.
This is just a saga.
Ouch.
Yeah, but the insurance company or the warranty, because you got to have an extended warranty on her car, so you'd think it would pay for all of it, but they said no. So we're like, well, it's kind of an internal engine problem. Like, this is exactly what the warranty is for. So we've been in like big arguments with like the dealership, the warranty company, and we're just in the middle of it. But we finally got the answer we were looking for, where the warranty company is like, all right, we talked with the dealership and you just owe the deductible now. So like, finally. So now they're they're finishing it up the car right now, but we're like at the home stretch right now. We're like, oh, we're going to have another car back soon.
That's awesome.
Big yay.
Yay. Definite yay. So yeah, we're really excited to have Lauren's car back.
Congratulations.
Yes. And as for the last kind of show we were at, we saw one of our kind of friends perform live recently, but it was just kind of a tip jar up front kind of thing. They're called, it's Emily Randolph and the Sunny Side.
Is this a musical group?
Yeah. Okay. So
Emily Randolph and the Sunny Side.
Yeah. So the bass player Sean Murphy, he plays here at St. Luke's. And then he's connected us with a lot of.
The bass player used to be a child actor in our drama program here.
What?
That's how we still have him playing bass guitar on Sunday mornings.
So that's how we got connected way back.
Yeah, so that's the group he's in now. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Do you have a bass guitar in the orchestra pit for the show? Sorry, Shane, quick show.
I do.
Okay, is it him or somebody else?
No.
Okay.
It's somebody within the church that you already know.
You know him.
Looks like Santa Claus?
I think he looks more like an umpire.
Okay. We've got a lot of strange bassists around here.
Okay. This one looks like an umpire.
Okay. So Jeff, not Paul.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Paul's playing trumpet.
All right. Cool.
Everyone's
all kinds of music. I guess Sunday morning worship maybe counts a little bit. Like I'm so blessed. I get to hear live music every single week.
But that doesn't count because you didn't. Because you didn't go out of your way. You had to be there for work.
It's true.
So if you had taken your personal time,
it's true,
to come in and go, yay, praise, worship music, then it counts.
If you were on vacation and still chose to come to sing.
There you go.
But I do appreciate it. I just want credit for that. Like when our organist Peggy does her prelude, I'm sitting there going, I'm hearing live quality organ music. That's cool.
We love that you appreciate it, but it doesn't count.
It doesn't count. But I'll add to that, because we gave a tip, so you get to say that. But before that, Lauren and I saw John Mulaney in Auburn a month and a half ago.
At White River?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
The White River Amphitheater. And we had a good laugh.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Cool. Loretta, welcome.
Hi.
Highs, lows from the last 10 minutes, last week, last season.
Last 10 minutes. I've got a whole list.
Yeah. I saw you taking notes. So.
Let's see. I'm going to go with, because Shane talked about needing coffee right now, and I don't drink coffee, but my low has been, I'm not getting enough sleep. I'm burning the candle at all ends, and I feel like I'm failing at everything, and you hate that feeling.
Yes.
And I'm a really positive person, and I don't really have lows. I tell people, there's nothing that bothers me. I never have lows. So right now it's kind of like I want to be ahead on work. I want to be ahead on the things I have to do for the theater program. I want to be ahead on the things I need to do at home. And right now I'm like way behind on everything. So I think my low is I'm not getting enough sleep, but my high is I've never had such a jam-packed weekend, and it was Lee's decision, my husband, to go to the Rainiers game with the St. Luke's group. Yeah. And I really wanted to support that. So not only did I do that, I bought tickets for him and 5 of his closest friends, because I wanted to make it fun. And I thought, gosh, that's going to be a lot putting extra on my weekend. So I was really concerned about getting up at 7 to sing at church on Sunday and going to a rehearsal from 1 to 6. And my high is it worked, and I did it, and it was great, and everything happened. And I think I sang the right notes in church, right? And I think I was doing the right things at rehearsal, and I didn't go home and completely have a meltdown. So it was a huge high for me because I actually got through this big Sunday, which I normally wouldn't do. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to sing in church in the morning, I'm going to go home and take a nap or take it easy. Yeah. Or if I have a huge 1 to 6 rehearsal, I'm going to sleep in and get a little more rest and get ready for that. So the fact that I pulled it off. You did it. Yeah, it was a big, big high. And then your other question is just kind of too easy for me because, Lee and I.
Yeah, but I'm curious. I'm not trying to stump you. That's not the goal.
It's the greatest question because I'll see more live music and live performances in theater. I'll double or triple what my husband will see in an annual calendar year because I can go with friends or by myself. And so sometimes it's hard to get him out because he has a night job. Yeah. So for his birthday, I kind of saw something I knew he would want. So I got him tickets we went 2 weeks ago on a Wednesday night to see Stuart Copeland, the drummer for the band The Police.
Okay.
And he played with the Seattle Symphony. Oh. So we're up at Benaroya Hall. And he's talking about his time in the band and the symphony and his little band, and he's up front on the drums. They're just doing the entire Police catalog, and it's completely amazing. He plays electric guitar for a portion. He drums. He's got these great trio of singers, and the symphony's playing. It was incredible.
Did your husband enjoy it?
He loved it. No, I knew he would love it. I mean, it was one of his people. Yeah. So every time I see his people are coming to town, I'll be like, oh, such and such band's playing at the Moore Theater. He's like, yes. So I kind of keep up on the things he would like to see, but then there's so many things I want to see that I can't get him to that I just I save it for when he's ready. So we were just out supporting live musicians, the symphony, which needs our support right now, right? Mm-hmm. At Benaroya Hall just 2 weeks ago.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That would be a cool show.
Yeah. They do good stuff there. They bring in a lot of interesting folk and rock artists, and they back them with the symphony. It's a really cool schedule. The other thing they do there that you would love is when they do the scores from movies. So if it's a movie you've seen and you know by heart, the symphony plays the Jaws score live, or they play the Bugs Bunny movies. All the opera
movies up on the screen.
The movie is on the screen, and they're playing the score. It's really fun.
I've heard people describe that in very glowing terms. I've never experienced it.
Oh, you have to do it sometime. It's amazing.
Fantastic. My brothers both got to see concerts recently. My little brother went to a Guns N' Roses impersonator, and my big brother went to see Motley Crue. They're on tour with, I don't know who, Poison maybe? I forget.
Okay.
They have not aged well, and you should go for comic relief, not nostalgia and bringing out the hits.
Comic relief.
It was pretty bad.
We did. Lauren. Sorry, this is all making me remember. Lauren and I saw James Taylor. The other few months ago.
Wow.
At it's got Chinese architecture in Seattle, Fifth Avenue maybe.
Fifth Avenue Theater.
Yeah, he was there. It was just really cool. Dang, he's 90, he's old.
We had a James Taylor tribute. I forgot he didn't like the word impersonator, but he performed more or less as James Taylor doing James Taylor music in my congregation in Omaha. And I don't think he knew who James Taylor was till later in life. Somebody's like, you look like James Taylor. And he's like, what is that? He looked into it, and then he performed and sounded just like him and looked just like him and just kind of backed into this side gig.
I love it.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's how he got to be a James Taylor tribute artist. Loretta, how did you get into theater? Do you remember your first show, like in any capacity?
I'm going to go way back about how I got into theater, which was, I was 7, and I remember my dad had my older sister and I dress our nicest, and he took us to a live theater performance. The part I didn't know was, or I didn't understand before I was sitting there, that why my mom was on stage. So we went to see Hello, Dolly at Spokane Civic Theater, and my mom was in the ensemble, and she's up there singing "Call on Dolly," and I'm like, that's my mama.
Aww.
Right? So when I'm 7, she's doing that. When I'm 9, my dad says, we're gonna go see your mom, Fiddler on the Roof, tonight. And she's Model's mother. And I'm thinking, she's my mother. How's she Model's mother? So the way back story is my grandfather, my mom's dad, was a professional entertainer in Hollywood. So he made movies with Bing Crosby and Mickey Rooney.
As an actor or like a...
He was an actor who could play an instrument. So what they would do is they'd go down. He was a nightclub performer. They'd go out to the nightclubs and then go, casting call. Who wants a pay stub for today? Meaning you can make daytime money. So when Bing Crosby is conducting the band, he wants actors who look like they can hold a flute. So my grandpa was in the movies, and he was a nightclub entertainer, and he actually made a living his entire life as a singer musician. He never had another job.
Yeah.
And my mom had this natural talent for singing, and she was Miss Spokane, and singing was her talent. So it was like this thing that was in my family that people were always singing or entertaining. But not until I saw my mom on stage did I realize there's something different you do when you sing, right? So I think my first line was in first grade at St. Francis of Assisi in Spokane, and I think I said something like "T is for tree" in the Christmas poem.
Yeah.
It was a huge moment. But then being a naturally gifted singer, and the way our school systems were when I was going to school, you really couldn't do both. And so
Choral and drama.
Right. So as you guys know, with electives in schools, it's like you got to choose, right? And I remember thinking, I know how to sing. So in middle school, I started singing in the middle school choir. In junior high, I was in choir and in band. So there was my mistake. I was playing an instrument. So then I was never going to get in a drama class, right? So it's not until I was in 10th grade that I realized I could audition for a show after school. And by the time I get to 11th and 12th grade, I'm realizing, I want to quit band and do more drama and everything. So curse you, Jack Dalton, the melodramas you do, the one acts in high school. And then my senior year, they only chose 12 kids, and I was in Godspell. And my mom and dad were just, so proud because my mom had done theater all her time and everything. But then again, I thought, I'm just dabbling here. I mean, do I really know what I'm doing? So I went to college to study vocal jazz.
Okay.
And I decided theater's probably not my thing, right? I mean, I'm a singer, right? And eventually I wanted to take a continuing ed class after college. Okay. And I thought, you know what you do? You go to a community college and you sign up for a drama class, right? Only there was no such thing. It was a show. You were signing up to be in the show.
Oh.
So I went and I filled out my form in 1980, whatever, and said, ensemble, please, and, belted out my song. And the director said, hey, so we're doing Annie, and I think you'd be great as Miss Hannigan. I said, no. Can I be one of the girls in the back row? Or, I just want to sing.
Check the other box.
And he said, well, no, I'd like you to be this lead role. And I said, I don't know that I'm capable. I'm not sure if I can do that. And he said, I'm the director. I'll direct you.
That's when you're like, I need that chair.
And so my continuing education class, I met Lana Beathy, who was a longtime member of this church, and Greg Gamble, who was a time member of the church, and a young, scruffy, single guy named Lee Howard. And I was in a drama class in a production of
For Annie?
Annie, with the Heavier Than Air Family Theater Company, and that's where it all kind of took off from.
That's awesome. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Do you? So I get to hear you sing regularly, and I know you get to sing on the side. I've seen you deliver a few lines or introductions at shows. Do you still act, or have you kind of transitioned to I use my singing gifts and get to enjoy that, and shifted in the theater world to directing more?
Yeah, so when you're young and you're single, or you're newly married and you're young and have tons of energy, you drive all over and you audition everywhere. And for me, it was a no-brainer. It used to be a no-brainer that I had shows every weekend in Kirkland or Redmond with the traffic.
Singing gigs or shows? Theater. Okay.
I'd be Dolly Levi, or I'd be Adelaide in Guys and Dolls, and I would drive great distances to do these things, or I'd be out working in Issaquah. I did a cabaret one year in downtown Seattle every single night in December. Who does that? I mean, you don't do that when you have a job and you have a life and you have a family and everything, but it was something I did all the time. And when you do, if you have any experience being in a theatrical production and you've done it enough, you realize that you put on an outfit in Act 1, and then they ask you to change clothes, and you throw that on the floor and it's sweaty and gross, and you do something else and you do something else. And somewhere in Act 2, you have to put on the Act 1 outfit again. And then at the Heavier Than Air Family Theater Company, we did 3 shows a day. So that sweaty garment that I took on and off happened many times through 3 shows. And at some point, we get to a certain age where we're like, it's not as much fun running around and changing clothes every 5 minutes. So I went back to my original talent and said, if I was a nightclub singer, I don't have to change my clothes every 5 minutes. I could either, as Shane knows from being in Shoreline, show up in one outfit and do the whole gig, or if it's really special, I could change clothes at Intermission. So I kind of quit auditioning and went into professional singing, but then people would still call me for things. And I think my last, outside of St. Luke's, maybe major role might have been 10 years ago at Renton Civic Theater. And then what I was acting and choreographing here when I was asked to become the director.
Okay.
And so it's this point you get to in life where you're like, I don't have to run around backstage and change my clothes in 30 seconds and do all this anymore. I could sing, or I could direct. And so the first few shows I directed here, I actually had to do a part or do something because I'd been on stage here so much that people were disappointed that I wasn't on stage. And then if the show was a lesser known title here, the worship and art director said, hey, could you find a way to do a walkthrough?
Featuring Loretta. No.
So I wouldn't tell my mom or anybody. So, 10, 12 years ago, we put on Oliver, and they watched the whole first act of the show. In Intermission, I'm in the lobby in my street clothes, and everybody says, oh, I'm so sad you're not in the show. That's such a bummer. And I go, yeah, They all go back in and sit down. And I walk on stage for 1 minute and 30 seconds to sing The Milkmaid in Oliver. So I would find these ways to kind of cameo through or just cross through the stage doing something. So I did that for a while too, but we have so many wonderfully talented people here that I don't have to be on the stage anymore. Yeah. So it's nice.
It's nice taking more of, I guess, the back seat, at least in the performing approach.
Yeah. And when I was first invited here, I would be invited in just to choreograph one number. So a whole musical production, somebody else is directing and choreographing, but they were like, hey, this one number's beyond my skill level. Can you come in and do this? And I'd say, sure. So the issues I had with that were I'm choreographing and I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be a certain tempo, beat, right? So I put this number together. The dance moves are based on what I'm thinking is happening. But the music director, who I don't know or haven't met, is thinking something else. So he's thinking this number will be beat. And I realized that the choreography now doesn't look good, and it doesn't look like I intended it. So then the directing thing came out of, if I had a little more control over all these aspects, it would be what I wanted.
Yeah. If Loretta ran the world, the more being in charge.
So be careful. That's what Lee thinks is already happening.
So is that how you started your first directing role here, or?
My very first directing role was here. So I came to. So Lana was directing some of the shows, but they weren't every year and they were sporadic. But in the late 80s or early 90s, I was invited to the old sanctuary at St. Luke's to watch a production of The Witness. And while not the most stellar theatrical production, there's really quality singing in those voices, but just not people who had not really acted much. And I thought, well, okay, that was nice. And then I was invited back again in the old sanctuary to watch Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And I was like, oh yeah, these people can sing. I think theater at this church was born out of the fact that the worship and praise teams and the choir, we had so many lovely voices here, and people wanted to do more with that, but they didn't really want a drama program or a theater program. They just wanted a chance to use those talents a little bit more creatively than every Sunday.
Yeah.
So we came back to see a show in I want to say it was around 96, and had to be performed in Malco Hall because I think the sanctuary was under construction, and it was the best little Christmas pageant ever, and it was really cute. And they brought in some people who weren't members of the church, and I noticed there was a little more going on in the drama program. And it was then that Lana, Greg Gamble, and my husband brought their children's summer drama camp to St. Luke's, and they started it, I believe, in the summer of 97.
Okay.
It was a huge success. There were 70 or 100 kids, per year. And some of those kids are, of course, now adults in my current production. And it was a big deal to have something that kids could do artistically in the summers here. And they called up Lee and I want to say in September, right after he'd finished his drama camp. So he really started here first, and said, hey, could he play Scrooge? Loretta, would you come in and choreograph a number, maybe play a role? But that was it. And we left. And then I want to say maybe a year or two later, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Can you guys come in? Loretta looks like a great evil white witch. I don't know why they thought that. And Lee was reprising his role of Mr. Tumnus from a previous theater company. So we were just sporadically dropping in. And then when they did Annie, it got full blown, like, hey, Lee's going to be Daddy Warbucks. Loretta's Miss Hannigan. Loretta's going to choreograph about half the show. So then when Lee was directing Wizard of Oz a few years later, he said, which Sean Murphy was one of my, he was one of my munchkins. Sean Murray, right?
Murray.
Yeah, either one. Murphy. Lee let me direct Munchkinland. So Lee has been a director a long time, and he's an award-winning director for national theater festivals. And he said, why don't you just take Munchkinland off and do your own thing, like direct all the kids, everybody in it and everything. So we were just little by little dabbling in it here. And then around 2005, the director of worship and art said, we just love every time you choreograph a number or what you're doing or what you're putting on the stage. It's really quality. And we like the people you're bringing in. You're bringing in really talented people who used to do professional theater, but now they have families and children and they're too busy to do professional theater. Yeah. He said, would you ever consider directing? And I said, I'd think about it. And I went away and I thought about it and I thought, yes. And then came back in and said, but here's the deal. I need, for the first production, just because I want to learn the ropes, I need to be the director, the choreographer, the music director, the set designer, the costume designer. And he said, well, we'll have to have a staff meeting to get back with you. And they came back and said yes. And Lana Beatty signed on to be technical director because I wanted to learn about hanging lights and putting flats together and creating a set. And Mitzi signed on to do costumes exactly based on my design. So I'm like the girl in the yellow dress dances with the boy in the yellow shirt. So I'm being very specific about colors and design and everything. Hired a really good piano player so I could teach parts, so I could music direct, so I could get everything the way I wanted, but this person could play for me and run rehearsals. So that's how it all started. I haven't been here every year. I think this is my 12th show here. But yeah, every time I've been invited or asked. And then there was a period here, I would say during budget cuts and, things that go on in a church where there was no worship and arts director for a period. And we divvied out the jobs. Sue was leading the choir and Amy was going to take care of the Sunday worship weekends. And they asked me to volunteer as just the church's artistic director. And so we did do some springtime shows. We've done teas where we've had music during teas. We did a reading of, we did a staged reading of The Grinch during a family Christmas function in Malco Hall where everybody had tables and chairs and there'd be caroling. So I came on board kind of to keep the church alive with music and theater arts. So I said, I'll do this, but I won't run the drama camp. Somebody else always runs the summer kids camp. There's a thing about me and kids. I don't know what it is yet, but anyway, they're far away from me and they're over there. And so I don't run the kids camp. I don't direct every show here, but I just made sure that for people who wanted to be a part of theater arts or music or musical theater or even staged theater, that we had something going on.
Yeah. I love it. I love just the different varieties, all the capacities you've kind of been plugged in. And Shane, you can ask a question. I think I cut you off. No? All right, I'm going to finish my thought then. So I imagine when you're working with people very close like that, you're going to have lots of good community time, lots of good conversation about executing. Like I imagine you talk a lot about putting on the show, right, and conversation behind stage and during rehearsals. I'm curious though, when you're in a show that deep, just, knowing all the details and all the aesthetics, do you ever get to talk about the content of the show? So I'm not sure if I'm asking that well. So I imagine,
you mean what's behind the lines, or what's behind the scenes?
Yeah, like let's say you're doing Oliver, and it raises questions about the goodness or brokenness of humanity and just what poverty can mean. Something like that. Like, or when you're in it, is the beat right? Is that costume, straight? Did we, were we slow getting off the stage? And, remember when Kevin forgot his line? Like, are you talking just about rehearsal and executing? Or do you ever get to a spot where you can talk about the substance, good or bad or joyful or broken?
So we always try to talk about the show and set up the cast at our first meet and greet. We spend a lot of time talking about the time period, who we are, what kind of people we are, and what kind of message we're trying to deliver. There's only occasional times throughout the rehearsal process where I get to do that with everybody.
Yeah.
But I spend a lot of time on it with leads and people who are in specific scenes, especially if you're doing Oliver and you have a child actor and you're trying to, coach him. You're wanting him to understand what all this means around him.
Yeah. He
would never have experienced this. I'm not going to say he's privileged, but he's privileged to be alive now and living in a home and homeschooled in Auburn. And so he wouldn't have known what this meant to the world.
Right.
But I would say the things I'm emphasizing with both the cast and with the audience through my director's notes are what's the message here? What's the message? And Music Man, which we're doing this fall, is one of my favorite redemption stories. I mean, it's just, does he save the town or does the town save him, or both?
Okay.
It's just so, I'm going to get all weepy about it now.
It's all right.
It's just such a beautiful redemption story. And we'll talk about that when we're doing Godspell. The script ends when they carry him out on the cross. That's when the script ends. Okay, that was that author's vision for that show. My vision is he come back in singing and dancing because he is risen, right?
Ta-da.
So, I mean, you're looking at your messages that you're trying to deliver. And in Godspell, it was like, he's dead, goodbye. We've shut the doors. He's gone off stage. Okay, I think what's going to happen now is rejoice music, curtain call, beautiful, uplifting moments. So we're always trying, so the cast will, kind of read the script of Godspell and go, oh, that's the last page, close. But I'll have that conversation about what we're doing next and why we're doing it.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about people's characters and motivations, of course. But sometimes we don't have the opportunity, especially with a cast of 44 people, to talk about the big message.
Yeah.
But as we get closer to putting it on stage and we are vocalizing it enough, then we're kind of all coming together on the main themes.
Yeah. Has there been a particular show or expression of a show that really pushed your thinking or challenged you as an audience member, or just that you saw it like, I got to talk through that, or I got to think about, sometimes whether it's a beautiful thing or a hard thing that you kind of walk away going, I need to process that a little bit.
Lee and I have so many times where we leave a theater and we have huge conversations. But as he and I both say, it should never be like, what was that? What did we just watch? Did that really happen? Because that's the wrong conversation.
That's not a good conversation coming out of a show.
Right, but the ones you can have where you each can go off and think, I'll say something like, do you think he really died? He's like, that's a good question. They didn't really answer it in the show. Did they answer it? I don't know. So we love having those conversations about what did that scene mean to you? Or our favorite thing to do with theater after you leave is what happens next? That's our favorite thing.
What happens next in that world?
Yeah.
Or in your world?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think happens next? So when the show ends, and I'm not going to give away our ending right now, but what happens next? Did that person do something different? Did they move to a different town? Did they stay where they're at? Did they learn anything? Or did they go back to their old ways? So half of the conversation after the show is not just the message you got and the feeling you got, but do you think that character's going to do that again? Or what do you think that character would do differently now that this has all happened? This is so open-ended. I could talk about this for a year. You've asked a question, and I'm answering it with a question. I'm not really.
Yeah, what happened? That's a great question.
You should do that when the next time you're watching like movies or something. We watch really old black and white movies at our house all the time, and we'll be watching Barbara Stanwyck or Humphrey Bogart, and then it's like the end comes up, and we go, wait, what? What? And then you're like, what do you think happened next? Did they go off in the sunset happily ever after? Did he say, thanks, but I got to go be somewhere and do something else right now? I mean, it's always like, what happens after?
Yeah, I think my first thought also was turning that to me. Maybe that's some selfish all the time, but like, what do I do with that? What do we do with that? So if I got to experience that expression of a story or a character, what do I do with that? Is that somebody? Is that a warning tale? Is that, man, I want to be like that kind of person. How do I get to the spot in my life where that's the impact, or who in my life is that person, or do I have glimpses of that around me that I can celebrate and thank them? I
think when I saw Ragtime, when anyone sees the musical Ragtime, they say, wow, we can all be better. We can do better. We need to learn from the past. We can be better people. And you're so emotionally caught up in it, and it's so beautiful and so heart-wrenching at the same time that when you leave, you feel gutted. But you also feel like you heard these gorgeous songs and beautiful music and everything, but you feel gutted. And then you're like, we can all do better. When you see Come From Away, which in my mind is a perfect musical, and when I say a perfect musical, that means the dialogue, the music, the staging, the dance, the lighting, the set, the casting, everything, it all flows perfectly. It's the length. Like you didn't go, oh, I was there too long. Come From Away is a perfect show, and it's a true story. I mean, it's about real people who had all the planes land in their town, and they had to take all the people in on 9/11. And it's real. And you're just about to the moment where you're weeping, you're going to be bawling. And then they put a joke in, and it's the funniest joke you've ever heard, and you're laughing. And they take you up, and the little funny things in the relationships, and then they take you back down to like a weeping moment where a woman's trying to reach her son, the firefighter in New York, and she hasn't been able to get in touch with him for 3 days. I mean, they take you through this whole roller coaster the whole time, but it's perfectly balanced. So you never just completely tank at the bottom, and you're never just hysterically laughing over the top, but you're just enjoying every moment. And for me, that's what theater should be. You should be escaping your work, your job, your everyday whatever, and you should go into the theater, and it should just take you in, and you're just focused, and you're in their world. So whether at the end you have questions about what happens or what happens next, or whether you've learned something about we can be better people, or whether you've just been entertained and you escaped, your dull, tedious, boring, same old,
Why'd you
old,
look at
whatever.
me? Look at Shane's life. My life.
That was your low.
All right.
That was your low. So if you can escape your rhythm for 1 minute to
Yeah.
do something
No,
else,
that's good.
it's great.
And I love that. Makes me think too. Just if I can escape it is one thing, but also to be able to I don't know, feel better after have just received this thing that captured my whole attention, and not feel better of like I'm educated, but like something inside of me also just feels like just emotion comes alive.
If you lift it up a little bit,
Yeah.
it's like going to hear a musician or going to see a comedian or going to any theater production. If you just lift it up a little bit, isn't that why we do that? I mean, it's storytelling. Certainly, it's our generation's way of telling stories, but it should also lift you up, make you think, touch you emotionally. One of those things. Otherwise, don't go.
Otherwise, it was bad.
I was like, why were we? What just happened?
So director Loretta.
Yes.
There are people listening or perhaps watching who are considering coming to the show, and we hope they do.
Of course.
So whether it's their first show ever or in a long season, or they're a regular theater goer, what would the director's advice be? So you come to Music Man at St. Luke's. What would you tell them to do to make it a good experience?
I just want them to come and bring friends or family. Treat it as a relaxing night out. I think after the few years we've been through, if you have an opportunity to go enjoy a meal and fellowship with somebody and then say, hey, I'm going to take you to the theater because the tickets are only $10 and you can't get that anywhere else. It's a way to fellowship with somebody and take them to somewhere where they're going to enjoy something. But if you've never been to theater, oh my gosh, you're just going to love it. Singing, sets, costumes. Shane is amazing. Like his first rehearsal where he's belting out his solo.
Yeah.
Someone who does not know him but knows me from other theater productions looks over at me and goes,
Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
It was a total like,
This guy in the man bun's a keeper.
It's like, yeah, it's like, where did you find him? But people say that about it every year. Where did you find them?
Yeah.
And so if you've never been, you're just amazed with the talent. And as Jan always says, there's a professionalism here that takes it above community theater, because we're dealing with people who have previously worked at professional theaters and they pass that off to the people who have never been on stage before, of which I have a couple of people, this is their very first show ever. I mean, some people get to their 50s and 60s and say, hey, I want to be on stage. But I think as an audience member, it's just come with no expectations. And then you walk away with a, wow, that was amazing. Those kids could sing and dance, those little kids and those adults. And that song was beautiful. And they all danced at the same time together. How does that happen?
Yeah, I love it. I like how the first thing you said also was, grab a group of friends or your family and come watch theater together. That I think so much of our entertainment is very private right now. And that's okay. I watch Netflix by myself. And
Yeah, right.
But there's something about come enjoy the show, be entertained, give you something to think about, but experience that with people.
Right.
I think that's a beautiful thing. And I also, the unique that theater has intermission.
Yeah.
And, not most movies don't, most, comedies, sketches don't, but to have an opportunity to bump into each other, take a breath, kind of process mid-show and experience it together. I think that's a really unique thing about live theater.
Oh, intermission's great. My husband and I used to do a annual theater week with friends every year, and intermission was a chance like, so what do you think? What do you think? Oh, I like him. Oh, he's good. What did you like this? Oh, I didn't like that. And then you're talking, and then they're blinking the lights, and you're like, oh, we got to go back in.
Yeah, already.
And then some shows afterwards, you have to go out and have dessert or a drink kind of to talk about the shows, or the next morning at breakfast, you got to talk about last night's show. So, I mean, it's great to have somebody to share things with. One time, sorry, sidetrack, I saw the worst show I'd ever seen in my life. But my husband and our best friends had tickets to see it in 3 months. And the guy I was with, my buddy Bryce, I said, oh, I cannot believe this happened. I cannot believe we paid $75 a seat. This is the worst thing we've ever seen. This is so painful. This is so painful. Horrible. I got to call Lee, Paul, and Karen and tell them to cancel. He goes, you can't. I go, why not? He goes, they'll never understand what you went through. You have to not tell them a word, make them go to it. So they went to it and they all came out, and I'm like having a cocktail and I'm like, hey, how was the show? And they're like, that was the worst thing we ever saw. And I go, but you wouldn't have believed me, so I had to make you go.
Yeah.
I'm horrible.
To be experienced.
I'm horrible.
Well, Loretta, thanks for the conversation today. Thanks for all the ways you're serving on the show. I can't wait to be there. I don't know how many performances I'll be at, but I'll be there.
I know you will.
And
Shane will be at every one because he'll be on stage.
I'll be there.
I thought I could be his understudy.
Yes.
No, I actually haven't heard you sing in an audition.
Oh, okay.
No, I've heard you sing up in front of church, but you haven't auditioned yet.
All right, I haven't.
Until you audition, that's a no.
All right, that's probably best for all of us.
I'll give you the script in advance. Don't worry.
All right. Well, Loretta, thank you. I can't wait to see it. Listeners, viewers, thanks for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you next time. Continue the conversation. Please consider calling St. Luke's, stopping by. What are the dates of the show?
We open on November 4, and we have 2 shows on November 5, and then the following weekend, November 11, 12, 13.
Awesome. So come check out the show. Come say hi. Meet us in person. And look forward to seeing you later. Thanks, Loretta. Thanks, Shane.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Woo. That's the end of the episode, but we want to continue the conversation. Continue the conversation by sharing this episode, subscribing, or leaving a review. Connect with us on Instagram at 2414 podcast. Connect with us through email at 2414@stlukes-church.com. Or best of all, keep the conversation going by inviting someone to process with you so that you can each walk away with more understanding that leads to more conversation as the journey continues. If you happen to be in the Seattle-Tacoma area of Washington, stop by on a Sunday morning and say hi. 2414 is a podcast produced by St. Luke's Lutheran Church in Federal Way, Washington. To find more content, discover upcoming opportunities to connect in person, or to support the show, head on over to stlukes-church.com. Thanks for walking with us.